Right, so I wanted to call the September 11th school committee meeting to order. Danvers Public Schools is a dynamic community of independent learners dedicated to respect, responsibility, creativity, and the pursuit of academic and personal excellence. This meeting is broadcasted on Danvers Community Access Television. And is there anyone else in the audience who is recording the proceedings? And I did go out of order. I'm sorry. We're going to stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag. So before we begin, I know we always have public comment, so I just wanted to remind everyone of the rules and regulations and purpose of public comments at school committee meetings. So I'm just going to read the Massachusetts Association of School Committee rules regarding public comment. So all regular and special meetings of the school committee shall be open to the public. Executive sessions will be held only as prescribed by the statutes of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The school committee desires citizens of the district to attend its meetings so that they may become better acquainted with the operations and the programs of all local public schools. In addition, the committee would like the opportunity to hear the wishes and ideas of the public. In order that all citizens who wish to be heard before the committee have a chance and to ensure the ability of the committee to conduct the district's business in an orderly manner, the following rules and procedures are adopted. At each regularly scheduled school committee meeting, individuals or group representatives will be invited to address the committee. The chair shall determine the length of the public participation segment. Speakers will be allowed 3 minutes to present the material. The presiding chair may permit extension of the time limit. Topics of the discussion must be limited to those items listed on the school committee meeting agenda for that evening. Improper conduct and remarks will not be allowed. Defamatory or abusive remarks are always out of order, and if a speaker persists in improper conduct or remarks, the chair may terminate that individual's privilege of address. All remarks will be addressed through the chair of the meeting. Speakers may offer such objective criticisms of the school operations and programs as concern them, but in public sessions, the committee will not hear personal complaints of school personnel, nor against any member of the school community. Under most circumstances, administrative channels are the proper means for disposition of legitimate complaints involving staff members. And written comments longer than 3 minutes may be presented to the committee before or after the meeting for the committee members' review and considerations at an appropriate time. So I'm just going to remind us all of that every public school committee meeting. Okay. So with that said, do we have any items of interest from the school committee, superintendent, or community?
I do, Madam Chair.
Okay.
If we're on to the school committee.
Yes.
Okay. We do. We have
You want to do public comment? Yeah, we can do public. Yeah.
Sorry. Oh, please.
Hi, welcome back. I hope you guys enjoyed your summer. I know it never feels long enough. Amy Weeks, I have a child in the system right now. I guess I am here to inquire about the Title I grant that our district typically applies for. There were some parents who've been speaking about it and mentioning and concerned about it not being applied for. And our kids are not going to be getting that service as of now. I was just hoping someone could speak to that.
Yes, I can. The federal grants are due tomorrow. So
Okay.
The Title I grant will be in.
Okay. So do you have a time frame as to when our tiered instruction will be able to start? Because typically I think it starts on the 18th of this month. So if it's going through tomorrow, what does that look
I'm
like?
working with the Title I director tomorrow on when the start date. In the meantime, the work is happening at.
Okay. So the time
So
frame
this isn't
from
really a
here-
time to answer questions. It's a time for you to, if you have additional questions, you can follow up with an email to Ms. Wormers or the curriculum director or the principal, but it's not a back and forth conversation, public comment.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Crane?
I just wanted to express appreciation to the superintendent for the letter that you sent out a week or so ago regarding the new people coming to our community who are, in many cases, immigrants escaping or leaving countries that are dangerous. And I thought that your letter expressed what a lot of us feel about what our responsibility and what we morally should do to make the transition and provide what these students new to our community really need. And from what I saw, the feedback very, very positive from the community as well. So just as one school committee member, I appreciate that.
Superintendent?
Okay, we're ready.
Yeah.
So I would like to call Principal Adam Federico to come up to announce our student representatives to the school committee for the year. Principal Federico.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here. I'm really excited to introduce our student representatives for this school year. Returning is Lily Abel, who you remember from last year. She has cheerleading tonight, so she sends her apologies, but she promised to be at all the rest of the meetings. And then I'm really excited to introduce our new member, Julia Boyd. She's a member of the junior class. Really has already distinguished herself as a leader in our building, but I want to highlight she's a member of our swim team. She's an active participant in the Women of the World Club, and she's also one of our community leaders. So she facilitates community meetings during the community block and takes that as a leadership course. And last year, Julia helped facilitate school-wide assemblies on the issues of harassment and sexual harassment, spoke to classes about that issue, and I thought she really did a great job. So we're excited to bring her voice to the school committee meeting. So welcome to Julia.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome.
Welcome.
We try to have students, reps, kind of explain at the beginning because we know it's not the most fun thing for you all to sit through. So we try to have you. I don't know if there's any information for you to share yet or about Danvers High. It's okay if there's nothing new. Sometimes it's like about plays or sports or activities.
I would say no.
Okay. How'd the first week go then?
It was good. I mean, a lot of homework already, but that's okay. Fun. Like today was a little.
Oh, Mr. Federico.
Back to business.
Yes.
It was all learning today.
Right. Well, I'm sure Mr. Federico, before the meetings too, will touch base with both of you and like kind of go over, things you may want to share monthly. So thank you.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you, Principal Federico. And we look forward to some great reports from the high school. So this is just a series of updates. We will have our annual safety meeting that will take place at the end of September. We'd like the open houses to go through. We have September 28th at 7 p.m. We'll be at Bolton Richmond Middle School in the NPR room. Chief Lovell, his great group of school resource officers that have helped us through our training to start the year. The administrative team will be available to not only present our safety protocols and procedures, but also to take any questions, answer any questions. Our goal is to really just provide as much information about what we do, why we do it, and I think that it's a great opportunity to bring the community together. So that will take place on Thursday the 28th at 7 o'clock, and more information will come out. I'll put that in my weekly update as well in some separate send-alongs. The opening of schools, the first day for staff was the 30th, and again, thank you, Ms. Campbell, for addressing our faculty and staff. It was a very positive opening. We had some student speakers that just really, in my opinion, I should have dropped the mic after they finished because really I think encapsulated everything that's happening within our schools and very inspirational. We had a great 3 days of professional development, and our students came in last week. 3 early release days, which actually, with the way the temperatures were, really helped us. But a lot of enthusiasm. I was able to get to all the dismissals and arrivals, and a lot of fun, very impressive. Great to see that first day of school, particularly the kindergartners and such. Today it was students. Julia said today was the first full day of school for all of our students. There will be a number of open houses the next 2 weeks, so looking forward to making more connections, seeing us get up and going with operations. In terms of our staffing, our teachers and bus drivers, we're in a good place there with staffing. Teacher aides and van drivers, it's been a struggle, and we've been working really hard and working with our HR department as well as our leadership team to look for any creative ways we can to attract those to come into the district for those positions. Not just Danvers that's struggling for these positions, but working really hard and trying to come up with some creative ways, and we'll keep working on that as well. And our annual DPW walkthrough last Friday was awesome. The buildings are in great shape, and you can just really see the pride in the DPW that they have for putting the buildings not only in a great place for opening, but just throughout the year. So it was great for me to really develop relationships with them and have an opportunity to see the buildings. And I've been through them, and they're in great shape. School visits. So part of my entry plan is to be visible and to be in the schools. I've shared this with the principals. I'm trying to stay away from them the first month, let them get settled in. But I will have, I'll just set up my office in the various schools. The idea is to get to each school twice. So I'll be there at the opening of school. I'll stay there all day. I will not sit at their desk. I'll find my own little spot. But the plan is really just to get a feel for the school, meet people, see the great work. We'll tie some of our walkthroughs in with that with our team as well on those days. And I'm looking forward to that. So that'll be a great opportunity. Thursdays seem to be best on the calendar. So more updates as we go through. The next one is I'm planning the superintendent coffees with an opportunity to meet with the community, talk about issues, any concerns or issues that are on the mind of our families. And staff's always welcome too. The first one will kick off on the 26th, 8 o'clock at the Holton Richmond. Chief Lovell will join me, and the theme of that will be school safety as it ties into our school safety presentation. As the dates populate this week, I'll send a memo out so that you have, and feel free to come to the coffees. And I'm looking to alternate them as well, because I know, for working families and those that have varied schedules, it's not always easy to be there at 8 or 7:30. I'll try to do something in the afternoon and evenings, so that's what I'm working on right now.
So this is the opportunity for families to come meet with you.
That's right. Right, and I'll try to have themes for those coffees, and I may have, other administrators join, or other members of the community that, whatever the topic pertains to. Yeah. So maybe coffee isn't the word if we have it in the afternoon.
Chats.
Chats, right? Yeah.
Superintendent chat.
Community spirit, Jasmine is not able to make it, unfortunately, but she'll be back at our next meeting to talk about community spirit. And this really entails bringing our community together, and it's a partnership between the town, the Danvers Human Rights and Inclusion Committee, the NAACP, the North Shore and Department of Justice Community Relations, to have a dialogue about things that are happening in the community that are going well, experiences and opinions and things that might not be going as well, to really come together, ways to prioritize how to tackle some of the issues in our community. This will take place the 21st of October at the high school from, I believe, 8 to 3. And Jasmine will be at our next meeting to talk and bring more information about community spirit. But we would like facilitators to come in and present and talk with small groups, and there will be training for that in advance. So I'm sure they'll be asking the school committee as well as our administrators to help with that too, and other community members. The first policy subcommittee meeting will take place September 26th. It will be a virtual meeting at 5:15. The topics will be the facilities usage that has been crafted. Principal Federico has worked really hard on that. So we're going to present this in our policy meeting so that we can talk about facility rentals and working on that piece. Also, our wellness policy will be discussed, as well as coming back to the civil rights policy revisions that we talked about in the previous meeting. We'll talk more in detail, and I'll have Attorney Joyce join us for that meeting as well. So that's 5:15 on the 26th. That will be a virtual meeting. So other updates, just a spoiler alert that our enrollment is up, and want to share good news too. And I know in October we'll present our final enrollment numbers. We're still working through our enrollment as we're starting the year. So September is always that month. Just trying to settle in and really organize so we report to the state October 1st. We'll talk more about the enrollment of each school in October, retention rates, which I think is really important at all the levels. There's survey information that Principal Federico has put together to track where students are and families are, which I think is really important as we talk about retention and trends. And just for preliminary data, this is really rough, and it may change, and it probably will, but we're up 30 students from last year at the high school. So I think that's a really encouraging sign. And talking with Principal Federico in terms of the retention rates, there are some really positive numbers that are there that we'll share more in October. So I thought I would share that good news with the committee. Other updates, we have Constitution Day. As we know, we will observe that. That falls on a weekend, so we'll celebrate that on September 18th. And we have a set group of items and activities that will take place at each school. All schools that receive federal funding have to provide Constitution Day programming. So we're very excited about this. A special treat, we will distribute Constitution booklets to all Holton Richmond students as well as Danvers High School students too. So we got really a great deal through the National Center for Constitutional Studies on that. So I'll provide more detail at our next meeting, but all the schools are planning and preparing for this wonderful celebration of the Constitution. Some other updates too that really just as a reminder that we want to be as transparent as we can and share information. And throughout the year, we'll have opportunities for accountability data and sharing that. But anybody can look up our school profile or district profile on the DESE website. There are a number of different tabs, all the way from general, all the way to the end, which trends DART, which means meeting up and matching our schools in the cohort to look for trends. So if you click on the student tab, you can see all the different opportunities to look at the school data. Some of this is not updated yet. Some of it's older data, but it will roll over after October 1st. So if you're looking for student discipline data, you can break that down. You can break it down by school. You could break it down as well as if you want to look at retention rates, attendance rates. It's really good information. But again, we'll present this throughout the year as we talk more about accountability as it matches up with our district improvement plan. So I just wanted to make a note to that because we do get questions from time to time about sharing information, and we will share, of course, but you can go to this DESE website to get whatever information you need. All right. Is that it? I think
Any
that's it.
questions before we go to the next part?
Oh, wow.
I actually have a couple of questions. More, could you just address the temperatures in the classrooms and in the schools last week, given the heat and the humidity? And I know you have met with the DTA, so just even giving an update on that conversation as well.
Yes, absolutely. It was tough in a few of the elementary schools, and our principals did a great job. Particularly, I think we were in a good place in terms of the early release to get the students out of there. But our staff, they had PD, professional development, in the afternoons on Wednesday and Thursday. We did make a decision and discussed with the DTA in terms of giving the teachers and staff relief on Friday to go home when the students did 10 minutes after dismissal, which just made total sense to me. Looking for short-term, opportunities to bring relief to the buildings. As you know, the ventilation and HVAC, just, that there needs to be some updates at some point in terms of the 4 elementaries, the Thorpe, the Riverside, Highlands, and Great Oak. So I did walk through those buildings and talk with the principals. They made adjustments accordingly. For example, at Great Oak, Principal O'Leary did utilize the library, and there's a room adjacent to that that does have air conditioning to bring classes through to cool off. And I went back on Friday the afternoon to see, and basically the whole 4th and 5th grade were in there reading and just relaxing, which was fine. You make the best of that. In terms of changing recesses, some of the principals altered the recesses to stay inside, and obviously as much hydration as possible. So I met again with the DTA, which I meet on a weekly basis, and we talk more about, what are some short-term things we can do. And also we have a meeting on Thursday with DPW to talk about, what are some short-term things that we can do moving forward. But I do want to compliment our principals. I think they did a great job under the circumstances and their staffs too, making it work as best they could. So, I think there were some popsicles. There was a lot of ice water, but they did a great job. And knowing that, hopefully we'll get through the next 10 days. The forecast looks still muggy, but temperature is relatively in a pretty good place. But you can get any spikes in October. So, I'm grateful for the work, not only with the DPW, willing to talk and see what we can do short term, but also, with the teachers union and just being able to make that move on Friday. It just made perfect sense. So I hope that helped, but it's definitely a work in progress.
Anyone else? Okay.
I have one other question. The trends data that, for the website you provided, how often is that updated? Is it updated annually or is it updated monthly?
From DESI?
Yeah, from DESI,
It's
sorry.
usually, it's yearly.
Yearly,
So
okay.
yes, some of that hasn't rolled over
Okay.
yet. Some of that is old data sitting in there.
Okay,
So I'm looking forward to that rolling over. I'll check that out and let you know when
Okay,
that
perfect.
approximately will happen.
It's usually when MCAS are no longer embargoed, right? Is when everything kind of moves over.
So
Yeah.
October is the big month because
Right.
we release the attendance, right? The report comes out on October 1. We
Yep.
have to submit the embargo data from MCAS. That's released. So October is a big month for
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
turning that over.
okay.
Plus, we submit reports in terms of restraints, bullying and harassment and things like that to DESI, and then that populate, but it takes a little bit of time.
It's not monthly.
Yeah, I was like,
Even though they
wouldn't
might
that
have
be
sent
nice?
the data, like it doesn't go.
But
you know.
I'll bring whatever I can
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
matches those points that connect to
Okay.
the improvement plan too.
All right,
Right.
great.
Okay. So I think next topic. Except
Unfinished business.
Oh, yes. So the unfinished business.
That's me.
Yeah.
The secretary moves to approve and release the SY 2022-2023 executive session minutes.
Second.
Okay, so all those in favor to release the executive session minutes from the 2022,
Yep.
2023 school year, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So none. Great, so the next item, sorry, my computer is about to die, so I appreciate it. All right, so now we're going to talk about Educatius, which is the foreign exchange program. And I know Superintendent Bauer had a lot of experience with this in Marblehead, so he can, speak to us about it also from that experience and inform us about it and see if we are on board about exploring like more about it throughout the year as a possible next year. It would not be this year. Yeah, you need a good year
Yes.
to study it and do all the paperwork and all that fun
There's-
stuff.
There's a lot of background
Yeah.
and preparation, right?
Yes.
But,
So no changes this year.
But I do want to bring this to your attention because it really does take a good year in order to implement a program like this. My previous experience in 2 districts was we partnered with Educatius, and to give a thumbnail sketch, we found that the customer service was outstanding in terms of their not only marketing of our schools, but also the promotion and then actually the application process. There's quite a bit to it. So I have a number of slides that I'll go over quickly, but I think one of the things that's really important is there's a huge obligation when you bring a student into your school in general. It's a huge obligation. Now, bringing somebody from another country, high school age, that's a huge responsibility. So, I think working with a company that has a lot of experience and proven track record is critical because this will primarily be managed at the high school level. That's where the students will come into. So I did speak and met with Principal Federico to talk about, creating a partnership for a program to bring students into our school district. And it is housed at the high school. So a lot of responsibility in terms of connecting with education takes place as well as all the maintenance. But I think what's important is that, over 254 schools they work with in the United States, but they have a huge staff around the world that works on recruiting, selling, marketing our school, and then working with agents to try to prioritize students that would be interested in a school profile such as Danvers. So, I think the numbers speak for themselves. It's a large agency, but I think the thing that's important is they've built a great network that works well with the local schools, right? The one thing you don't want to get into with a larger corporation is losing that personal touch. So they have local coordinators that will work specifically with your school in terms of everything of bringing and training host families, background checks for the host families, as well as helping support students while they attend your school. Because that is a huge responsibility. So, to me, the way that I've seen them operate, again, is the personal touch. They do a great job vetting the host families, because again, that's a huge obligation for us. And marketing that as well, so people understand, like, what are the obligations of hosting an international student. They visit, they do frequent updates, they connect with the school, because the piece is that we have to not only provide a great education, but ensure that the student is doing well in school, right? And if there are any issues that come up, which sometimes may come up with housing and hosting, they're there to help you with those changes. The school really just does the schooling and just connecting with the students and ensuring they have a great experience at the high school. But really, it's on education to help connect with the host families and take care of any issues that may arise on that. So it's really a very strong partnership. So the local coordinator, they do contact that 24 hours. They're right on that piece. It's important that when students arrive, that we work together for an orientation. Plus, they do other things with the local area too. And I think the student experience has been outstanding. The students come in not only just to get a great education, but they also, I think, they add to the fabric of the school culture, right? They're involved in athletics, they're involved in music, they're involved in drama. And really, my experience on a personal level has been very, very positive. In my 7 years at Marblehead, 10 years at Beverly High School. So I can't say enough about the students and the families. And what I think is really great in the experience that you find is that often the students have an awesome experience, and they may have a sibling that would want to come, or a friend from their hometown come to visit and go to school. In Boston, as it is, with so many great universities and colleges, just this New England area, a lot of students will come here as it's junior or senior, go to school here, because with the way the visa works out, I don't want to get too complicated, we can only have the student for 1 year in the public high school with an F1 visa. But it's really neat because they come here and often they'll want to stay and go to school, go to college in the Boston or New England area. So that makes really for a great connection. So this really does take a year because there are two things that have to take place. One, we have to register, they call it an I-17 form, which really connects us with Homeland Security, right? This sets us up so that we are approved. They do background checks, and they go through all of our documentation to ensure we are what we say we are, because again, this is a federal, education is an independent group, but the federal government has the regulations on students that come into our country. So I have experience with that, getting the I-17 started. In terms of helping, I would be able to work with Principal Federico and his team in terms of what is needed. And we've had very good success with the visa process as well. The cost, though, there is a cost associated with the I-17 process. It's $3,000. That's a one-time fee, and that allows for the background checks and everything. That's right to the government. But I have found that the return on this, because the way this works, that does help school districts, is that the tuition typically is charged as the per pupil expenditure, right? So that, and if there are added costs, for example, a student can get a diploma in our school, we would have to arrange for MCAS testing and ensure the credits match up. But you can charge an additional $1,000 for that. Or if a student comes for a semester, it'd be half of that per pupil spending. I know ours is up over 18,000 or such. So that is money that comes into the district and can be utilized for a number of different things. And I think that's a great way to, you get a benefit of having the students in your district, but you also have the monetary piece as well. And they also provide financial, basically funding for host families as well. So you have that monetary piece for their taking care of the host families as well. So it takes about 4 to 16 weeks for the I-17, depending if they're backed up. Typically, they're probably a little backed up at this time, but I've been through this before, and certainly have worked with, they call it the SEVIS, not to get complicated, but working with one of the representatives to go through the process. So we would look to start this as soon as we can, just to ensure that we have approval, because you can't do anything until you have the I-17 approval. The second part is just an MOU with Educatius, which we're not under any financial obligation to them, but they're a partnership, and it just basically says that we have certain benchmarks that we will provide as a school, and they'll provide services to us as well. So it's not a long-term contract that we get locked into, but it takes time because we have to have the I-17 approval, but then also they have to set and establish a profile for Danvers High School to be marketed, and that takes place in the winter time. So theoretically, this is something that could be launched for next fall, but there is a lot of work that has to take place. So if this is a program that is of interest to the school committee, I would recommend moving forward with approval for the I-17 process and starting this work now. Yeah,
So first, do we have any questions that we want to ask? I know we've never had an exchange program.
Well,
Have we? Did we?
when I
You would know,
graduated in
Eric.
'78, a long
Are
time
you
ago.
going to say on the school committee
No,
and
no,
you
not on
remember?
school committee, but we had, I want to say 4 students in my senior class, and great experience. There were no negatives that I can think of, so I would really very support this.
So our last was 78, 1978. That
Yeah,
we
but
know
you
of.
know, I mean, hopefully,
Right, so we can bring it back.
it should be a wonderful experience for everybody concerned. It sounds like it should. So, yeah, I'd be in favor of this.
So the cost is 3,000, but we will in our capture that back because we charge back the per pupil cost
correct.
to.
So we would have to establish our tuition, which typically has been the cost per pupil on that. And that's part of the MOU, is to establish that, so that gets the profile as well. But just knowing where I've been before, knowing that, Boston is a very competitive area, so it does draw a lot of students from around the world, and we've had students from Germany, from Italy, from Spain, from France. We've had some students from Brazil. We haven't had students recently from China, but we did back when I was in Beverly. So it's an extensive network. And the good thing about this process is that they provide a huge application that we review. So we're under no obligation to take students unless we are comfortable in terms of the areas of looking through the transcript, in terms of the English ability as well, and in terms of the age. I tend to move toward more of the older students for the transition for them, right? We have taken students in the sophomore year because you do find students, more times than not, have had an exchange program in their own background once or twice. So it's not unusual that we would have a student come in that has already had an experience maybe in their sophomore year or freshman year. So, but I think it's really important for that whole process to review and work with the school counseling department, because ultimately we then would have to place the student into the classes best as we can off the transcript. So that's really important.
Okay, so not everyone, you don't automatically get in. There's a criteria that we
Exactly.
set within the district.
Yep.
Okay.
So if I may, Dan, are you looking for a vote from the school committee tonight supporting / authorizing you to go ahead with the I-17 process?
I would like support
Yeah.
to move forward with that. Yes, please.
So Eric, we didn't know if we needed a formal vote for that or if it's like we all support this. So I was gonna lean toward
Yeah, I
your
honestly-
suggestion about that.
I don't know. I mean, it is spending
Some money.
district money.
Okay.
But we don't vote on everything that we spend. So honestly, I don't know. If you want to vote because it really shows, hey, formal support, we're behind
Yeah, we
it,
can
then
do
that's fine.
That'd be
Okay.
great.
Does anyone else have any questions?
That's the only question, is just as far as what the process would be. We have this spend that we're voting on, but we're just voting on supporting the program at this point. Is that?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. And just to use the $3,000, which then would kind of be a wash, because if we do end up doing
Right.
it,
It would be paid.
it would be, and then some.
Is it $3,000 annually, or is it a one-time fee that then is carried over?
So this is a one-time fee for the I-17. There's a recertification that takes place. I think there's like a 3-year window.
Okay.
But once in that 3 years, if the program is up and going, it would be covered by bringing in students.
Okay. Anyone else?
Well, I'll make a motion
Okay, thank
that
you.
we support the superintendent to start the I-17 form, spend the $3,000 to do what's necessary so that they can vet us, and I'm sure that's what it is. It's whatever expenses they may have in checking us out. So I would make a motion that we support the submitting the I-17 form and the initial expenditure to start getting involved with this program.
Second.
Okay, so all those in favor to support the spending of the I-17 and MOU for the program, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? So none. Carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It'll be a great program.
Eric, I didn't want to go out of, I wanted to make sure I followed the rules, so I leaned toward you. I wanted to make sure the rules were followed with the vote. So I leaned toward you. So thank you. Okay. All right, so the next up is the district improvement plans and the K through 12 school.
Okay. And did you want to go back to A after that?
Yeah, you missed.
Oh, yes, thank you. It's because
Sorry.
I know. I don't have a plug. I'm sorry. Okay. So we had, do you have the dates available that we can project just for the audience? Okay. So we had touched upon this at the last meeting. We know that our meetings are very long, usually in person, and there's always a lot to cover. So, the best kind of way we felt to go about this was to have certain months we would have 2 meetings, depending on, the break schedule and whatnot. But basically, we'd always have the one meeting a month would be in person with, and that's the second Monday of the month, while the 4th Monday of the month would be virtual. And there's a few months where I think it's maybe the 3rd Monday because of a holiday and whatnot. But we originally had approved the school committee meetings in person, but now because there's a change, we have to reapprove that. Are we okay with the dates for the also virtual ones? So basically how we're hoping is the in-person ones like we've been doing is more okay, presenters, people coming up, that's when the kids would come in, etc. Where the virtual ones would be more maybe I want to say more business, there doesn't have to be a ton of discussion, or we're not going to have a presenter because obviously we want that live. So those would be shorter. But we would always usually have the first discussion on things in person so that we can, there's people here that can answer the principals, for instance, we weren't going to have that, the first reading via virtual.
But also, these meetings would be shorter too, by nature.
Yes, they will be. Yes, Josh. Yes. And then maybe more people will come.
Right.
Yes. So we just need a motion to approve and then a vote if we are okay with the meetings. And additionally, subcommittees, we are also going to, on the 4th Monday of each month, and we are going to post all of this on the website, so for those listening, the 4th Monday of each month, we'll have a subcommittee meeting. It'll rotate once a month. That also will be virtual starting at 5:15. Obviously, that's open to the public, it's virtual. But we will also kind of have topics that we recap. All right, so this is what we talked about in the subcommittee so that the public can see, but also obviously the subcommittee liaisons and members also come back and obviously share with the public too. But it'll give also the public an idea of is this something that interests me to attend and whatnot. So
Just about.
it's okay. I know it's going to be
It
posted.
is on the schedule.
It's in. I
think,
know.
yeah.
It's just project,
Yeah.
but it's the 2nd and 4th,
4th.
unless it's a weird
I
long
think-
weekend or something.
Next
Right.
month.
Yeah,
Next month.
Right.
So-
Yom Kippur this month,
right,
and the budget workshop in January.
right. So we need a motion.
I will move that we approve the new meeting schedule as presented.
Second.
Okay, so all those in favor of approving the new meeting schedule as presented, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? So none, so the vote carries. So I skipped ahead, so now we're back to the improvement plans, the district and the school improvement plans.
Okay.
And this is the first reading.
This is the first
So
reading,
just,
yes.
yes.
Thank you. Okay, so this is our first reading for the district and school improvement plans. I do want to point out that our team is here tonight, our administrative team, our principals, assistant principals, I think, our curriculum directors and special education coordinator, and our director of student services, as well as Mary Wormers. It's a collective, a lot of work that's gone into both the school and district improvement plans. So coming into this year, knowing with the new superintendent and knowing that we are at the end of our strategic plan and bringing an entry plan in, we really talked a lot about the district improvement plan because that really, the school improvement plan should mirror the district improvement plan. And we went with we really want to keep the goals basically essentially the same as last year, with the caveat that some of the goals weren't finished and there are areas that we want to push forward and extend some of the goals out for accountability. And that really was that's a sensible thing to do in a transition year because we know that we have a lot of work and a lot of work went into creating some really strong goals. So we want to carry them further. So this is like a 2.0 version of the district improvement plan as well as the school improvement plans. And as you know, the school improvement plans, really a lot of that work was done last spring, right, with the site councils at each school. That's one of the purviews of the site councils to work with the principal and the faculty to develop the school improvement plan. So they mirror each other. So they're here our team is here for any questions you may have at each level. So we kept the overall core value, which is developing a sense of belonging. And we talked a lot about this at our opening in terms of everything, right? We feel that for our students to be successful, there has to be a sense of belonging. It's really tough to achieve at a high level unless you have that sense of belonging. And I think that also holds true with our adults to be able to work to their maximum capacity. So our three basic goals are the safe and supportive learning environment, the coherent curriculum, instruction, and assessment, and then the diversity, equity, and inclusion. So these are essentially the same as last year. The difference that you'll see is on the individual plan itself, the grid are some of the areas that are more detailed in terms of the benchmarks and the action plan. So those extend out. Mary has helped me with the presentation, and I think I'm off on my slideshow. There we go. So I think the thing that's really important is that there's a coordination of the goals. For the goals to really work and to have meaning, they have to connect and be streamlined as well. So we want that. Yeah, we're getting some good rain. There we go. So as I said, the district goals match the school goals, but also our team and PLC, and actually can connect with a lot of our principal goals, our administrator goals, as well as our SMART goals for educators with the evaluation system. So if you can streamline that as much as possible, that really, I think, adds more meaning to the improvement plan. So in terms of the safe and supportive learning environment, you know, that's the first and foremost thing that has to happen. If students and staff do not feel safe, they do not feel a sense of belonging and are valued, really the other goals, they're really tough to achieve unless you have this base, and this is critical. So I think the measurements, we have the vocal data from MCAS that will continue, and we're also looking to develop a new school climate survey through Endicott College. We're working on that process now to give us another set of data points to work together. But I think at the end of the day, you're talking about a safe environment. What does that mean from a physical standpoint and a psychological standpoint? So obviously, when we talk about the physical standpoint, we're putting together our safety committee. We're also looking for ways to create district-wide threat assessment protocols that are important. We're also looking for ways to update our district bullying and harassment protocols, as well as our reporting mechanisms to ensure that they're up to speed and up to date, as well as professional development. And bringing this all together, you know, it takes a lot of work, but really, this is the essential goal that really, I think really triggers all of our other goals. And you'll find that with our school improvement plans as well. So the next piece is the coherent curriculum, instruction, and assessment, and really bringing the MTSS into helping support our students at all levels of their academic, social, emotional, behavioral needs. Right? That's critical, developing the tier interventions to support all students. and to be able to, at each level, find measures, right, that fit the assessments we're using so that we know that we are doing what we say we're doing within the content level. So our level-based curriculum directors and principals will be monitoring at the building level the implementation of assessments to make adjustments to practice. The formative piece is really important because that in itself is unlike the MCAS, which is really terminal in a lot of ways. You take that test in the spring and you don't find the results out until the fall when the students have already gone through. Yes, you utilize that data to see the implementation of strategies you put in, whether they're working or not working, that's important. But the formative pieces, they're in smaller chunks, and that really helps guide and inform instruction, as well as that feedback loop for our students and for our faculty. So that's a big focus area. And we broke it down with the elementary, the middle, and the high school in terms of the measurement of our reading assessments, as well as our math programming at the middle school using the iReady diagnostics. And you can see that 10% will test in the mid or above grade level or the early on grade level categories than the fall assessment. So they have a mechanism that Principal Colantoni and his team, they're putting into place, so they have the measurement. At the high school is moving over one benchmark score as defined by DESE, again, of 4 to 6, which is great on the vocal survey, and analyzing the local assessment data to monitor progress of their students. The high school has tons of data points, right? You have obviously your end of your MCAS, but you have, in a lot of cases, your midterm and final, but then also you have your end of units, but then you have your formative assessment as you work together to inform instruction. And I'm going to let Mary take, I actually was going to let Mary take 2 and 3, but I couldn't stop.
No, that's fine.
Mary will take goal 3.
You can keep going. So goal 3 is around diversity, equity, inclusion, and we're continuing our work to build relationships, affirm diverse identities, create opportunities for engagement for students and their families. So we're going to be using the vocal data for this as well, is to really show that, you know, they're feeling comfortable, that they belong in the community, they feel like they can reach out to their teachers and counselors for support when they need it, and that we really start to continue to work on the respecting people from all various backgrounds. So we're doing that. We're measuring that through the vocal data, but we're also looking at using the Endicott survey data as well there, because that will be a student data and teacher data, so we really get some good feedback on the school climate and culture, because until you feel great in your school and comfortable and that you belong, you really don't have the bandwidth to pay attention and do well in your academics. We're really working too on engagement of families, so we're really working on, you know, trying to do more outreach so that all families are engaging in activities and not just the families that you see at the activities all the time. So really making sure those families that, you know, may not engage in all the open houses or conferences are actually being invited to them and being, you know, we break down the barriers so that they do come and learn about what's happening in the school and how their child is doing in school. So we have a new program called Reach My Teach, which we're still working out a few kinks with it, but it's where every teacher can connect with families regardless what language you speak, and what platform that you use. What's great about when you send out a message in this platform is if you don't have email, it will send it out as a text. If you have email, it'll go out with email, or you could just send all text. So it's going to be, it's a great platform for everyone to reach out to families. So that's the first step in that program. So, and that work and engaging families. And then now the hard part comes on and actually thinking about what are those barriers to get more families engaged in school.
So what we need to do is have a vote to have this as a first reading, then a second, and then we can have discussion.
Could we have a discussion next
Well,
time we meet? Is
No,
that what
we're
you
gonna vote like yes as a first reading,
okay.
a second, then we will discuss.
Okay.
Correct?
What are we voting on?
No, what we'll.
We should discuss first and then vote as a first reading.
Right, yes, we
Okay.
take a motion, followed by a discussion, followed by the vote.
Right, a motion to have the first, as a first reading.
Motion to
Yes.
approve for a
First reading, yes,
Yeah.
okay.
So, motion to approve the first reading of the district improvement plan.
Second.
All right, so who has their first question or discussion? Gabe?
Comment and a question. By the way, I love a roadmap, which has clear goals and measures. I mean, so thank you for this. This was very detailed. My first question is, do we have any measures from 2022? Do we have like a baseline and a measure? And I'm wondering if any of that information is going to be presented.
Yes, we do have data from the last school year.
Yes.
Yes, yep, absolutely. And that was part of the rationale for taking into account, where we are, right, and moving the needle further. So I think
Awesome.
that's important because you have to have that comparison, right? Like I said, a lot of work was done last year, a lot of great work. So taking that and building and seeing where we are. So part of the plan too is to bring to the committee updates in terms of where we are with the goals, and use that measurement. So, for example, when we look at, some of the achievement data, you certainly will be able to utilize last year's data, but then look at where we're moving for this year too. So I think that's important to have that baseline, so you have a comparison.
Awesome. Thank you.
Because otherwise it seems to me like, you're like, here's this data and what does it mean?
Can you talk a little bit more about the Endicott School Climate and Culture Survey? Like, would it go out from kindergarten to 12th? What did the questions look like? That kind of thing.
So that survey itself, it's a fairly comprehensive survey. And a lot of school districts utilize that survey when districts are getting close to the accreditation process, that 10-year accreditation, because it really dives pretty deeply into areas of school culture and climate. And you really have an opportunity to tweak some of the survey that would best fit the needs of your district. So that one would go out to families, that one would go out to staff, and depending on students where you are, it could be utilized with high school and potentially middle school students. But it really is an encompassing survey, and we've had good success where I've been before with Endicott because they're ones that will help craft that survey and work with you, but also the big piece of a survey is just the communication and ensuring like it's out, but then getting the information back. The information from a survey coming back is only as good as what you get into. The information itself and the return rate is critical because there is an expenditure with that, but they do, this is what they do, and particularly at Department at Endicott. And they do break down in terms of the areas of the survey itself. So I think it's important because you can match that with our goals themselves, right? Because you can gauge and talk about school safety, you could talk about the climate, which connects with bullying and harassment in terms of students interacting and faculty and feeling safe by all. You can dive down deeply into the academics and talk about in terms of way communication takes place, information takes place at the classroom level, but also I like it because you get the triangulation of the families, staff, and some students that you could bring this together. And it's pretty comprehensive, and I think it will work well, not only with our improvement plan, but we could utilize that to come into the entry plan as we start to look for the strategic plan. So I see it serving a dual purpose in supporting this work. And I wouldn't recommend the Endicott survey every year, but there are versions that can streamline that. We could talk further at a later time. So I'm right now in the process of setting up a meeting with Endicott to go through this, and I'm happy to bring an update in terms of where we are. This survey is not something I would administer right when we start school,
Right.
because you kind of want to get into the routine of school, but you also want to avoid some of the areas that might be tough, like the holiday season and such. So they have a really, I think, a very good way of rolling this out and working together for bringing the data in, so
And
then
then
releasing that data.
Do they have normative data themselves that they share with us? Like, I know the questions would be different, but because they do this survey, you said with other districts, do they then share kind of like, this is your findings, your results, but normatively we see X, Y, Z?
They don't go that far into detail, but
Okay.
they can certainly give you idea of trends, and certainly their experiences. The survey is only as good as the questions that come
Right.
out of it. So they do help you in terms of the construct of the questions, because they have a lot of experience in terms of how that brings in the robust data.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And I would bet too that, looking at the high school's accreditation, they may have done something. I haven't gotten that far in the investigation, but a lot of districts utilize that for the accreditation. So I'll see if that has been done here. And then they would have that on file.
Can you talk a little bit about, because we love acronyms, what is the vocal data? How would you, oh, that's Mary's probably, okay.
Turn this over to
Oh,
Mary.
actually, I am not sure 100% what it stands for, but it's the data that's at the end of the MCAS, so it's, you know what it stands for? But it's given at the end of the MCAS, in 5 and 8, and 10, it's at the end of science, because that's the last test they take. And then at the other grade levels, at the end of the math test. And so, once they
Okay.
finish, they go on, and there's a series of questions that they answer around, you know, how they feel in school, how they feel they're being challenged academically, you know, relationships with their peers, relationships with their teachers. So it's a very comprehensive survey, actually.
I was
So,
going to say, it's another survey, but it's right in the MCAS.
yeah,
Okay,
right.
thanks.
And we don't get it till
We don't get it till now.
So some of the, you know, okay, views of climate and learning.
Okay, thank you.
So
I didn't know what it stood
to
for.
Gabe's point, when we get down that road, that data's already there, so that
Right.
gives us a nice baseline, and we could pull this data out because this is something that they've asked, and we could build off the year before that as well.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have no other questions. I liked the way this dovetailed with, or dovetails with the school improvement plans. I think you've pointed out the connections and the way it all fits together. And especially for your first year coming in, I think the sort of, as you said, making this sort of 2.0 from last year makes a lot of sense. So,
So question, it seems like we do have MTSS planned at every grade level for 30 minutes every day. So we're applying for the grant. Who knows when it's coming because we don't know.
We
You still do
continue-
it.
Yeah,
Yes.
we've always had Title I. We
Yep.
still have funds from our Title I grant from last year, so the work will continue. The
Right.
tutors are hired, so that's happening. We're just in our first full day of school today, so.
And you have to figure out where the kids go
Yeah.
because you have to have diagnostic
Right,
tests.
right,
We
and
don't know
We
yet.
only have a few schools that are Title I, not all 5 of our
Right.
schools. Elementary schools are Title I.
But even for MTSS, we don't know where they should go yet because it's our fourth
Right,
day.
they're just they've established
Yeah.
their routines, they're starting,
Right.
today was the, you know, I think they started a little bit last week, but today was the first full day of school where the phonics and reading programs were being implemented. and
Right.
Math. So-
Okay, okay. One question just is the iReady data usually shared with families, and if so, how? Yeah,
No, we-
Actually, I might have Principal Tony, if you'd like to come up. And his team. I don't think they were expecting that, but
They just piloted it last year. It was the
Right,
first year of the
ex-
pilot. so-
yeah.
first year
So
of
it's
the
just
pilot.
curious, you know,
Yeah.
it's new.
I think it's important because it really gives nice benchmarks throughout the year.
Mhm.
Right.
Like, I think, Ellen, like, if you're not an educator, you're probably like, what is iReady?
Right, exactly. So last year was the first time we administered it, and that was just in the spring, and that was really just to get a feel for what the assessment looked like, what the data came back looking like, so we could actually make good use of the data this year. So I think our plan is to definitely use the data when we're using it in placement decisions, certainly to have those conversations with families, but I don't know that we're necessarily sending that data out to every family. We haven't even started doing our rostering or anything
Okay.
for this year to get ready for the assessment. But I think really it's good for like sitting down and having a side-by-side conversation, but not necessarily something that you would just sort of mail out to families like an MCAS report.
I mean, I think we'd be open to that, but I
Yeah.
think we're just learning at Holton Richmond how
Right.
to use the assessment well. I am familiar with it in previous middle schools for
Yeah.
math and DLA, so I'm just digging into the data with Ellen and kind of see what we have.
Okay. One thing I was just thinking, and this is all like for MCAS too and iReady, I mean, I think sometimes we don't always celebrate like the student growth. We look at like, okay, like they're at meeting or they're like at exceeding or partially meeting, but like you could have a kid grow like 80%, but they still might be at partially meeting. I don't know if there's a way to incorporate that somewhere in the improvement plan, or if that's just like something we should note to celebrate ourselves. This is like for MCAS too. I know that's one of the things because I think we sometimes get tied on those like levels, and it's like, but this kid like might have like knocked it out of the park in student growth.
Absolutely, and
You
I
know.
think that is a huge point where, you know, it's all relative, right?
Right.
It is that growth that we see, not just at the middle elementary, middle, but when they get to the high school.
Right. So,
And I think the nice thing about iReady is they'll take it 3 times. So by that 3rd time, the hope is to see.
oh, I loved
Growth.
it. I loved working with it. I'm familiar now more with Renaissance, but yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm sure that if there's like something glaring, like I know you're implementing MTS, but like you would obviously contact anyone who needed to be contacted if it was glaring. Yeah. So, all
And
right.
I think the good news with that data too is they were talking about placement, to being able to share that with the high school, moving up to next year and being able to go through that data. That's not a bad thing.
Right.
So it's still a work in progress. We're getting there. But pleased with the work and that they're doing at Fulton Richmond, moving forward.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions?
They don't need to come back, because it might be a question you can answer. So is iReady technically like standardized testing, or what's the input of iReady?
So it gives us, I don't want to, no, you could, well, it gives us benchmark assessments. So it compares like peers to district to state.
But it's not through a standardized test.
No, so it's through,
coursework, classwork.
no, it's like literally like a program that the kids take. It's a reading test and a math test.
Oh,
Do we have math too? Okay,
do
so
both.
fall, winter, and spring.
Okay,
and
so
it'll-
it is standardized testing, technically?
No, because it's not.
I think it's a diagnostic.
It's a
assessment that-
diagnostic, yeah,
okay.
like, and
Right.
it's not like this
Much
thing, it
smaller
doesn't get
version.
reported to like the state. It's not like an MCAS type of thing
It's
like
all
that.
internal data.
It's all internal data. It all gives us like formative assessments to say, okay, this is where this kid is. This is a challenge. This is what's challenging. This is the skills we need to work on, or this is, where they're not, where they're fine.
Yeah, like our formative data is like
Yeah.
our weekly data that we keep on kids and how are they progressing to the learning targets that we're setting for them. But then when we get to iReady, it's the benchmark data. It's like, it's a trimester data. So how did they do over, like, keeping that information along, with them, especially
Right.
like in math, and did they retain it, and do they still need some help in some of the areas that they learned in that trimester that went by? And the same thing happens on the reading benchmarks at the elementary level, so.
And like individually too, right? Like without the support, because you want to see, like what you said, what did they retain
Yeah.
on their own? Yeah.
Right, very helpful for our educators as well as they work on strategies to not only push students forward, but just to see where they've come and
Yeah.
utilize that data for themselves.
And it's great too, because it can like pinpoint, it can be like, okay, so if this kid is struggling with, or these kids are struggling with this, it'll group kids and be like, you should have some lessons that focus on X. So it's like really helpful for educators too. So. All right, so we just need to vote that this is the first reading.
Right, are there
Yeah. Are there any other questions?
Are we going to dig into the individual plans, or are we, before
We're
we
gonna
move
do
on?
that next. So
Okay,
we'll
I
vote
just wanna
first
make
just on the
Yep,
district.
you got it.
Yeah. Okay. So all those in favor as the first reading for the district improvement plan for the 23-24 school year, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? So none. And we'll revisit this on the virtual meeting in September for the second reading.
Great.
Okay. All right. So thank you. So now for the school improvement plans.
So the school improvement plans are in hopefully, I hope the new setup, Janet's worked really hard it's not linked, but they're all in the folder. And as you can see in the school improvement plans, they're very similar to the district improvement plan with the 3 major goals that connect with school safety, that connect with assessment and instruction, as well as equity and diversity and inclusion, all under the guise. Really, the thing, that thread that holds it all together is the sense of belonging. So the schools are a little more individualized, as you can see, more relative, but we pulled out that data points within our district improvement plans, so you'll see them woven throughout the school improvement plans. So if you'd like, I could have the elementary team, if you want them to come up and provide any highlights, the secondary
Yeah.
team
that'd
as
be
well.
helpful.
Would the elementary team like to come up and present some of the highlights? Start with the elementary. So again, this work really took a lot of this in the spring, working with their site councils as they came in. So I took that into account as well as we looked at the district improvement plan.
Hello.
Hey,
So the six of us and Eric Oxford, who's staying in his seat. So the seven of us actually worked together over the summertime to put together the elementary school improvement plan goals. And because we work as a team, you'll notice that on the elementary school improvement goals, goal 2 and goal 3 are exactly verbatim at all 5 schools. So I'll talk briefly about goal 2 and 3, and then I will turn it over to the principals to highlight anything from goal 1. So both goal two and goal 3 are around our work around literacy and mathematics. And as Dan mentioned, we really took our goals from last year and took them to the next level. So I was here in June talking to you about our literacy work and the changes that we're making at the elementary level. Last year, our goal was 80% of students would be reading at or above grade level. We missed that. If you remember, in June we were at 70 something percent. We've upped the goal to 90% for this school year, so that's where we were at. I don't remember the exact number, but it was in the high 70s, but we did miss our 80% last spring, and we upped our goal to 90%. And I'm feeling very hopeful about it because we're doing a lot more changes this year at the elementary level, implementing new curriculums. We have an MTSS block where students will be receiving instruction at their skill-based level. So this is one of our major focuses for the year. So we're hopeful to report to you. The reading teachers are busy screening students right now, K to 5. And so at some point we will be able to report to you where we're starting the school year. And then again at the middle of the year and the end of the year, I'm hoping we are close to that 90% mark. In terms of our third goal, we're very excited. We've done a lot of work around ST Math, which is a supplemental math program that we have at the elementary level. And last year our goal was 80% completion of the program. And the reason for 80% is that the research shows that if a student completes 80% of the ST Math curriculum, that has a positive impact on their MCAS score at the end of that school year. And we're actually working with Mind Research, and they're going to look specifically at our ST Math data and compare it with our MCAS scores as well. So again, like Dan said, we're taking that goal to the next level and we're looking for 90% completion. And what we're really trying to focus on is the individual student, because as we know, averages can hide a little bit if one kid's at 90 and one kid's at 40. So we're really trying to keep track of individual student progress and making sure that all students have access to the program. The one last thing I'll say is that I'd say one of the coolest parts about the program is there are no words. So it is purely, there's no direction. So unlike our Tier 1 math curriculum that has a lot of words and a lot of thinking and a lot of reading associated with it, this has no words. So students get immediate feedback. They're playing a game where they're trying to get a penguin across the screen. And if the penguin doesn't get there, you know you didn't do it correctly. Okay, I'm done. That was goal 2 and goal 3. And goal 1 is around sense of belonging, but each school has a little bit of a different spin on that.
Julie, I do want to say you were very hard on yourself last year. We piloted a brand new reading program and we knew that we probably weren't going to make it, but we also, like, you made significant gains across the board. And now this is our second year. So
We're gonna hopefully get
I
to
personally
90.
was very pleased. So.
And they changed the assessments.
Everything was
Yeah, the
changed.
screeners were changed.
Everything. Yeah. And didn't we like do some, like, what one of the highest with ST Math or something?
They were very high.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, but like,
In the we crushed the 80%
yes.
last spring.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, in the state,
in the
we got
yes.
recognized at the state level.
Yes, that's
Yes,
what it
that
was,
was
yes.
very cool. Yes. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. So I would like to highlight for Smith School the work that we are doing around expectations in our building. As many of you know, brave is our mantra, what we live by, what we stand for, what we, how we do things around the building. So our BRAVE, as you know, stands for believe, respect, accept, value, and engage. We wanted to take it a step further to really hone in on the expectations throughout the entire building. For example, hallway expectations, classroom expectations, actually learning space expectations, playground expectations. And last Thursday, right after early release, the staff and I came together, all of the stakeholders that are involved in our building. We came together and really dove deeply into what are the expectations and what are we hoping from all of our students. So for example, we want the language to be nice and simple and clear, and we want consistent language throughout all different areas of the building. So for example, I have hallway expectations, safe, calm body, quiet voice, walk with a purpose, stay in your lane. So that's just an example. We created something similar for playground expectations, learning space expectations, cafeteria expectations. The goal is once all of our, I'm working right now with Kate Smith. She's going to help us create posters that we can hang all throughout the building. And we want to be able to, each grade level is taken on an expectation. We'll create student skits, and we'll share that with all of the grades, and then we'll be discussing it as well during our Bulldog gatherings. And I think that to us is really important, that common language and the common expectations throughout the whole building. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Sarah Fitzgerald, Riverside School. We are also focusing on belonging and connecting. We have Riverside Pride, so being positive, respectful, inclusive, doing the right thing, and applying effective effort. So this year, we have Riverside rallies each month where students, different grade levels, will present, kind of connected to the Riverside Pride. They take one of the words like positive, and how do you show being positive in the different school setting. The other piece that we really want to focus on is the connection to families. We had heard about other schools who had reached out within the first month to families and connected. So we're going to do that at Riverside. We're working on that right now. And then we're also going to put an effort on reaching out for positive things throughout the year. So just a random call or check-in with families to say, hey, so-and-so did a great job, and we wanted you to know about that. And we also are connecting back to the zones of regulation. So we have a think sheet, which is connected to Riverside Pride too. So maybe you didn't have a great day. So let's stop and think about it. And how could you handle this situation differently? And what strategies do you have? Who can help you work through problems like this? So that's what we're working on at Riverside.
Good evening, everyone. Brian Riley, principal at Thorpe. Similar to what the superintendent said, in my first year really assessing what our sense of belonging looks like. We implemented last year the Tiger 5, so we're looking through our multi-tiered system of supports to look at what resources are available, from our social workers to our sense of belonging around our Tiger 5 and the zones of regulation. And really wanted to make sure that we are building a sense of community across our programming. As many of you know, we have substantially separate learning centers at Thorpe, and wanted to make sure that we are including all students in all aspects of our school day, including looking at monthly school-wide assemblies that we'll be able to utilize our time with our preschool students through grade 5 students and our substantially separate population, to ensure that everyone feels like they belong at Thorpe.
Good evening, everyone. So as you know, I'm still a little bit in transition here, so I brought Julie up to help me out. So at Great Oak, we have the Dragon Drive. So the drive is determination, respect, independence, value, and equity. And this is what's, guiding our sense of belonging team. One thing that they've implemented and changed this year is each morning during morning announcements, they recite the Dragon Pledge. Another thing that's been implemented, we are just starting to meet together with the sense of belonging team. So things we're going to start implementing is, very similar to the other schools, is really focusing on those character traits each month. And what does that look like within our school? What does it look like on the playground? What does it look like in our community for the students? And really building that sense of belonging and citizenship, and what does make a good citizen. And it is, those 5 components. I'm going to let Julie talk about Dragon Time, which is unique and special to Great Oak.
So Dragon Time is really taken on by the specialists at Great Oak. So the three of them have designed a special schedule on Wednesdays, and on Wednesdays they collaborate across the specialist team, and and they take multiple grade levels simultaneously. So they're really building those relationships between younger kids and older students, and their focus of those lessons and those activities is around the Dragon Drive. So they spent a lot of time before school started putting together what those Wednesday times were going to look like, and I think they're excited about it, and I think that it'll be something special for the students that'll be a little bit different on Wednesdays.
Hi, good evening. My name is John Obremski, and I'm the principal of Highlands School. So at Highlands this year, we're going to be focused on the Highlands High Five. And the Highlands High Five this year are be kind, be safe, be a hard worker, be creative, and show integrity. And last year, we met every Monday as a school in Monday morning meeting. That's going to continue this year, except we're going to be doing it on Wednesday afternoons. And in those meetings, they're really student run. The 5th grade runs the meetings with support, obviously, from staff. And kids are able to come up and perform talents and things. And it really does, in fact, create a sense of belonging within the community. Highlands is a great place to be. We worked all year last year on the for the sense of belonging. I'd specifically like to thank a couple of teachers who were on the committee, Becky Cockfield, 1st grade teacher, Chris Smith, the art teacher, George Gall, the music teacher, and Alana Keller, the kindergarten teacher. They really did a phenomenal job coming up with this, and that's the direction we're moving, and it's pretty positive. I'm pretty excited about it.
Thank you. So we have like 3 different, obviously, levels presenting. So we should first do, I think, just we have to vote that this is the first reading. Motion for that. So does
So
for all the school improvement plans.
Okay, so motion for the first reading of all the individual school improvement plans.
Yes.
Including high school and middle school?
Yeah. So we can do
Okay.
the discussion
Yeah, sure.
for each one. Yeah.
That's fine. All right, second.
Okay. So does anyone have any questions for the elementary folks while they're up here?
Just an overall comment. I just like how all three are, you have the same goals and everybody's aligned to it together. And I think that having the 2 academic ones, as well as the sense of belonging up front, I think it's great. So, and I went through these before, and you guys did a nice job on this. So,
I appreciate putting ownership on the students too, right? And holding them more accountable for their behaviors and, creating that community in each of the schools. So, like in terms of just like feedback, that was something that stood out for me that I thought was coming through as well.
I want to thank all of you and the school councils who are often overlooked in this process, that it's those group of parents and community members and teachers and everybody who contributes to the final product. So thank you to everybody, yourselves, your staff, and of course the school council members. And I like the alignment as well. And I think the individual touch for each school, giving those people your students, a special sense of ownership, I think is great. So it all looks good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So now I'll have Holton Richmond.
Well,
Or wait, we talked.
Could we bring up both groups
Yeah,
together?
we can do, yeah.
So we can cut down travel time?
The secondary folks.
And I do have a news update because I should have had the vocal acronym, and thanks for my friends to help me out. Views of Climate and Learning. Vocal. Views of Climate and Learning.
We'll test you on
Okay.
that next month.
Please
I
do.
know.
There you go.
I just want to say, if I could, if it's okay through the chair, I echo your compliments on our elementary team and the work, and obviously transitioning in, just watching them work really brought it together, and the involvement with Eric Oxford too, bringing him into the team, has just been wonderful to watch. All right, here we go.
All right. So we talked a little bit about the iReady goal, but again, coming in this summer as new principal, looking at the plan from last year, it was really an exciting opportunity to see the work that was underway at Holton Richmond. And working with the LNR team, we spent the summer really looking at how can we really take these goals to the next level. So in the first goal around safe and supportive schools, I think a few highlights for us, really dig into student voice. We started, right before the school year started, with the 8th grade leadership summit. bringing down some high school leaderships. Thank you, Principal Federico. And so when we were thinking about safe and supportive schools, really thinking about student voice in that process. So highlights for us were really some summer events. We started the year for safe and supportive schools with a strong start playbook in our school to really think about what does the safe part look like. So we spent the first opening days in the next few weeks really focused on strong routines, safe routines. So that's certainly a highlight. And then we'll be doing a lot of monthly hawk talks where the assistant principals will be meeting with the students to go over, again, what safe and supportive schools look like, but also to build in student voice during those assemblies for students to have some ownership of their space in school. We talked about the iReady goal for number 2, but I think a highlight for us is the middle school level, expanding that to teachers beyond ELA, thinking about literacy across the curriculum, not just living in ELA classrooms. So Ellen and I have already had some exciting conversations around how we can provide some professional development and work with Mary on really thinking about literacy across all content areas. So that's an exciting goal for us to report back on.
No, we're just really excited about, taking the work that we've done. I think especially goal 2, having that iReady data really provided an opportunity to not only align with the really good work that the elementary team has been doing around reading, but also just really hit a major leverage point for our students. We know that post-pandemic, cultural changes and everything else that's happening, we just know the importance of literacy development with our middle school kids. And so we're really excited to dig into that. It's not a new topic at the middle school. I mean, when Mary was the curriculum director, we were working on literacy. But I think we just, we know the importance of it. And I think, the experience of the faculty, our combined experiences, the resources that we have, we're really excited about digging into that and having so much data to be able to drive that work.
And I'll just add, we did pivot from last year's plan for goal 2. So this is a year 1 goal for us. That wasn't a goal last year. That's something we decided this summer was important.
I just want to thank you because I know that the orientation in the first couple days, like the kids were excited, the families were excited. So thank you to the staff, administrators. I know that you kicked it off really strong and people are really excited. So thank you to everyone for that.
We're excited. Thank you.
Yeah. Any questions for our middle school?
The only question I have, first of all, I think the leadership summit that you did over the summer was a great idea. So I wanted to commend you on that. I did want to just I did review this earlier, and I saw from Mr. Federico had something in there about increasing, as one of his tactics was increasing monitors in the halls and things like that. And that was the only suggestion that I was going to suggest, just knowing the history of the HRMS of what we've had happen in there. It's a great place to get into trouble, in the hallways and the bathrooms, and it just might be something that I might recommend that you add in as a strategy.
Absolutely. In the meantime, we are serving as the hall monitors. we have desks on wheels and
on the 3rd floor.
That's great. Okay.
Standing desks.
All right. I had a feeling that it was probably addressed already, but in the event that it was not, I would just recommend.
Point well taken. Thank you.
You got it.
I do have a question, and I think it applies to all the schools in regards to, some of the newest members of the community in that situation. Maybe it's a little late, but I don't see any particular plans or goals around how to ensure that they're all accepted and welcome, and there's any, mitigation plans in place, because it's probably going to be inevitable with, the language barrier and just the newness of everything. And I'd like to know if we can get like a monthly update on how that's working, because any good measure of a school is going to be how the, most vulnerable students are acclimating. So that's something that I hope we can address on a regular basis.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Happy to.
I think our goal 3 around culturally responsive teaching practices absolutely addresses that. I do just want to say anecdotally that our new students, I think having them has been so far one of the absolute highlights of the start of school. It's been an absolute joy welcoming them, seeing how other students have welcomed them, other students who are also multilingual speakers, leveraging their own home language skills to welcome these kids. It's been an absolute joy.
Awesome. Can I ask, what's the population impact in middle school? And maybe we'll hear from the high school as well. Like, how many, do you know?
I think
Maybe,
7 or 10.
Mary knows.
Changing
Yeah.
daily.
How many students, like at each school,
Yeah.
come in? Yeah, so 8 at the middle school and 8 at the high school.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to just highlight from our plan, Goal 1 looks at safe and supportive learning environments. Really, this represents just a continuation of the work that we've been really focused on, but I do want to highlight the last action step, which is specific to athletics. So we have a new athletic director, and he is working on and creating an athletic leadership council made up of students that's really going to drive expectations and climate within the athletic department, but also connected to the rest of the school. And I think we already see this. Our band does a nice job with their leadership structure. So we're excited to sort of add this to another important facet of the school. And so that'll be worked throughout the year in terms of just continuing to grow student voice and empowering kids to, not only be leaders, but also really have a voice in how we create a positive and safe climate. So that's just one area I wanted to highlight. Everything else is, just continuing the work that we've been doing, expanding training, expanding events, and expanding programming. So that's Goal 1 for safe and supportive learning environments. And I will turn it over to Mr. DeMoro, who will address Goals 2 and 3.
Hello, good evening. So our Goal 2 around curriculum and instruction is really centered around MTSS, which is sort of aligned with the rest of the district. Last year, we were able to pilot at the 9th grade level a MTSS block, WIN block. And over the year, we were able to partner with our community leaders, our students, to implement over 20 lessons around executive function skills and strategies. So we felt that it was very successful, especially by the end of the year. We were going into the community and leadership class and co-planning the lesson with students, which was a really cool collaboration to see. As we move into next year, we're looking to expand upon last year's work. We're keeping the 9th grade structure in place, but at the 10th grade level, we're going to utilize data from teachers' classrooms to really target the most vulnerable students. And we're adding a new structure on a weekly basis. We have a teacher that has been designated as the 10th grade WIN block room. So students will be designated at the beginning of a 7-day cycle to go in there to get targeted support based on what they need. And as they work with that teacher or teachers who are there to help, they may offboard once they're all set and can go back to their regular schedule. So that'll be a continuous cycle throughout the year as we look at that. So that's just one highlight from Goal 2 that I wanted to point out. Our Goal 3 is really around college and career readiness and civic engagement. We're continuing to think about 9 to 12, how students are thinking about their post-secondary plans. I was able to work with a group of guidance counselors and teachers over this past year to really look at our 9 to 12 programming around college and career readiness. We use a program called MyCap, My Career and Academic Plan. And so we're able to look at certain lessons that are part of that program and ensure that through every grade, students get at least 4 lessons around preparation for their post-secondary plans. So we're able to develop a scope and sequence. And so right now, every student at Danvers High School will get at least 16 lessons around trying to figure out what they want to do after they graduate from Danvers High School. As we move forward into this year, I'm hoping to continue to work with that group and think about ways in which teachers in their classrooms can develop lessons within their content areas to support college and career planning to make it a direct tie to different fields that may interest students in different subjects that they may enjoy. So that's one highlight from Goal 3 that I'd like to point out.
Any questions?
I have one. It may not be directly relevant to this, but I'm curious to know about the collaboration between the middle and high school to try to, encourage that transition.
Yeah, first off, I want to just commend Principal Colin Toney and his team and their connection with the high school team. We've already worked together on a few shared events. We're excited to supervise home football games together in a couple of weeks, so that'll be a good time.
Oh, geez.
But I think, more broadly, it's really exciting to have, we've already started having conversations around how can we really formally showcase the connections that are already there. So that, I'd say stay tuned on that. And I think we have just a lot of great cross connections. Mr. Hamilton, who was at the middle school, is now up at the high school. So just, I think there's lots of ways where we're partnering together and I think you already see that paying off in terms of how kids are matriculating from middle school to high school. So really excited, and I want to commend the middle school administration for working directly with us, and it's been a great, I think, a great start to the year in that way. We have Mr. Colantoni reminding me, we have our DECA students already going down on Thursday, so we're really looking for just lots of opportunities where the high school kids can go down and visit the middle school, and then vice versa, having them come up. So we're going to continue to work on that process as well. So really excited and really pleased with already how that collaboration is happening.
Awesome. Thank you.
Just a question. I know last year elementary called it wind block, but then I heard the term a lot MTSS from elementary. But then I heard Peter, you said wind, so like, is it different levels are calling it different things, or like, just so parents know? Because I know parents are familiar with wind, so if they hear MTSS, like they should assume it's the same thing at the elementary level. Mary?
At the high school, WIN is specific to 9th grade.
Okay.
So WIN is about what kids need, and the focus is executive functioning skills.
Okay.
Whereas MTSS is sort of the big umbrella, the idea of how are we getting kids whatever support they need, whether it's specific to academics or broad or more broad.
Okay, thank
So,
you.
yeah.
Okay.
WIN is very specific at the high school.
Okay. Mary, do you know about the other levels?
Yes,
I know it's changed the terms, so.
Right, and I think at middle school, it's the Project Talk block that they have. Yeah, the
Right.
RISE block that during that time.
Okay.
Project Talk and RISE happen at the same time, and then at the elementary level, it's the MTSS block. It's where the grade level kind of gets together and the students get what they need. We're flooding the block with, all the reading specialists and the Title I tutors and teachers, where they break kids into groups and give students where they specific skill-based interventions.
Okay,
Or
I just-
extensions. to
It
be
was
clear.
more just for families to like understand. I know like the term has changed at different times, so, I mean, essentially it's all the same.
Yeah.
It's just different terms.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for high school? All right, thank you. High school, middle school, thank you.
Again,
what-
through the-
one-
if I could just, I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, I had a
I
question
just
for
wanted
you.
to compliment our administrators. It's the first full day for school for the
Mm-hmm.
students and staff, but a really long day for them. And really, they've worked super hard over the summer. And it's the piece that's so intriguing is the collaboration between the middle and high school. They've hit the ground running, and it's just the joy as superintendent to watch, all this happening because of, where they want to be. And they're just a tremendous, tremendous group. And Mary deserves a lot of credit too, because she is guiding the curriculum piece as well. So we're very blessed with such a great group of administrators. So I just want to note that. It's been a really long day for them. I can see it in their eyes. Yeah, I have to bring in some coffee and some donuts from Henry's, I'm sure. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, just a quick question for Mr. Superintendent here. Just the term school improvement plan, is that a term used widely in education?
Yes.
Okay. It has a negative connotation to me. I think of a performance improvement plan, which is what I'm used to, and those are not usually very positive. So I was just wondering if there's,
It should be like school goals.
or like an ongoing improvement plan. It just sounds
Is it a
like something's
DESI
really
thing,
bad
though?
that we're trying to change.
Or the
DESI term.
connotation
It's
is
a DESI
improvement
term.
that's showing that something has to be better, right?
Right.
Just that
Yeah.
word itself, and I understand that, but that is common terminology.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, so it stays. All right.
But we can do that, and then I can put in air quotes something.
Sure, okay.
Team, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Through the chair,
Yes.
one more.
Yeah.
thing. In terms of the location of the school committee meetings?
Yes, I was gonna announce it at the end, but you beat me to it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's
We
fine.
have to
So-
stop.
Oh,
We never
yes,
took a
we
vote
need
on
to
the high
vote.
school,
Yeah,
middle
yeah.
school. So let's do
So-
that first, maybe?
So, yeah, so we need to vote that this was the first reading for,
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve the high school and middle school school improvement plans for a first reading with thanks to everybody involved.
Second.
all right, so all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So none.
Pardon my interruption.
No, it's fine. So we did hear feedback about the location for the school committee meetings that, it was kind of hard to hear. People felt like it was a little bit disjointed. It wasn't, as, I don't want to say welcoming maybe is the word. So we have decided starting in October to move the meetings, the in-person ones to Holton Richmond in the media center. And we're still kind of figuring up the setup, but it'll be more like probably like a horseshoe. I think that's the best view because the screen is big and it's not going to, like, we're all in one level.
Yeah.
Where I know like the chorus room here, it was a little bit hard at times. So just don't go here next time. Come
Go to the middle school.
but it'll be also in the on the agenda. So okay, so now we need the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I second it.
No discussion. That was your discussion. Any questions?
Oh,
Yeah, like discussion, yeah. Okay, so all those in favor of this consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So none, so vote carries.
Oh, the secretary moves to approve and not release the minutes from the August 21st regular meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, so all those in favor to release the August 21st regular meeting and not the executive session? Sorry. All those in favor to approve and not release minutes, to approve the August 21st regular meeting?
It should be executive session.
Yes,
right?
okay.
Yes.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? So none. So communications, anything from NEC?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Keeping my notes. Yes, board meeting is this week on Wednesday, so I'll report back on
And-
that meeting. Yes,
okay.
at the 26th meeting. Yep.
Thank you. Legislation, Eric? I know
I
you
have
had a
nothing
lot.
at this point. They just came back into session after the summer break, so there's really.
And they had a lot last time.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
The 8th
I
page,
can read
yeah.
the rest of the 8
Yeah.
page. No. Okay.
No, it's okay, I believe you. We have not, our first subcommittee meeting will be policy, so we don't have any updates.
No
from
updates
anyone.
except the areas that we will discuss in that meeting.
Right. I don't know if human rights and inclusion, they haven't.
Meeting Thursday.
The meeting is Thursday.
Yeah, so there's nothing new to report there. I'll be able to.
No,
next
other
meeting.
than, I think, Mr. Superintendent talked about the exciting program that's coming up.
And obviously Jasmine will have more too.
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
okay.
Yes.
All right, so if that's it, then
What about
Deep, they have their meeting on, it's the 18th? No, it's this Wednesday.
Danvers Cares is the 18th. That's the following week.
I believe Deep is this Wednesday. No, it's the third Wednesday, right, of the month? There's no updates, I know that.
Okay.
There's no updates. So then we just need, I guess, a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, so all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, none. So the vote carries. So good night, Danvers, and we'll see you on September 26th, virtual 6:30. All right, thank you.